Good evening, and welcome to the U Talk Show, where you may learn something fascinating, and perhaps even develop a hint of national pride if we pull this off. Today, we are continuing to examine net zero and how to get there, and we'd like to ask ourselves, how can Australia help transition the world to net zero? How can we take our place to, like the capybara of the world, improve everyone's lives? Kyle,
Uh,
take it away.
we're just gonna. All right. Yep. Distract me with the funniest joke that you keep repeating. All right. So the question, okay, specifically, the series is saving Earth before it's too late, and the question is, how can Australia speed up the world's transition to net zero? There are actually a couple of ways. First off, we've mentioned holistic land management and the expansion of grasslands. I have done some rough calculations, and we can buy the world between 5 and 10 years in the fight against climate change. And with the grassland expansion, we can, once we've reached net zero, then begin to reverse climate change, bringing our atmosphere back to a pre-industrial state.
Okay, so I just
That
like to
is
step in here just before you go further on this, because you've missed the first and most obvious component of the answer to this question. But it does have to do with your grassland expansion. We need to lead by example. We need to be able to
yes.
demonstrate ways of managing the climate emergency. We need to demonstrate that it is feasible and economic to do, and that with the political will, you can make the world a better place. And then we need to take all that evidence, take it to other governments, and shove it up their asses so hard that they have no choice but to get in line and do the right thing for our futures.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say they have no choice but to get orgasmically involved.
I mean, if having legislation shoved up their posteriors is what gets them to orgasm, then I'm not going to judge Mitch McConnell too harshly.
Of all people. Okay. Thanks for that.
Now, back to the grassland.
Yes. Well, actually, that's kind of already finished. I mean, that's kind of it, really. We expand grasslands, and we can buy the entire world between 5 and 10 years in the fight against climate change. And long term, we can actually reverse the damage to the atmosphere that we've done, bringing carbon levels back to the levels that we saw in the pre-industrial era. The second way, and what I'd argue is just as, if not more important, is that we can become a renewable energy system exporter. We can manufacture renewable energy systems here in Australia. We have not just all of the mineral resources needed, not just all of the expertise needed. We actually have some of the world's best renewable energy system scientists who used to work for us until funding to the CSIRO got cut. But we can not only bring them back with some generous paycheck offers,
we can rehire them with blackjack and hookers.
Yes, we can rehire them with blackjack and hookers and all kinds of crazy incentives. And we can get them working on creating a manufacturing base for renewable energy and green steel. We've talked about green steel a little bit before, but to summarize, essentially it uses, God damn it, I keep thinking it's called electrolysis, but it's not electrolysis, it's the other one.
It is that thing, though. Yeah. No. Yeah. Hang on, I have this up here.
Yeah, I keep forgetting the name. Please forgive me. It uses electromagnetism to heat up.
Yeah, it's electrolysis, hydrogen electrolysis.
Are you sure it's
you got it right the first time?
Oh, no, induction heating. It's kind of like induction heating. Which, does that use electrolysis? Is that the reason why I keep thinking it's called electrolysis? So I've been getting it right the whole time, but thinking I've been getting it wrong. The oxymoron of myself. So
no, the hydromoron.
You know what? You and me are probably the only two people that find that as funny as we do. So to answer the question, and to get back to something a lot more productive than just these jokes playing on a loop in my head, we can create an industrial manufacturing base here in Australia for electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, and green steel created through induction furnaces using hydrogen electrolysis.
Oh, I've got good news for you, Kyle. I've got really good news.
There's a couple of companies doing this already.
Fortescue Futures,
yes, I've heard of
is
this.
currently, they're currently working on making the green iron thing work properly. And they've gotten around to like 150 kilos of production in a lab environment. It's going to need scaling.
Nice.
It's going to need scaling and refinement, but the tech is proven.
Yes, well, that's what I was actually just about to get into, is that there are several companies who have already developed the tech, and it is now feasible. It's become feasible in the last year or so. And we've had some smaller scale proof of concepts. All we need is the investment and the construction of large scale plants, large scale. Help me out here. What's the word? Is it just plant? Did I already get it right? I already got it right. I'm having a moment.
Have a kick. The Utah Show,
you want to
sponsored by.
When our minds are in sync, but in the worst way. So,
Kit Kat wants to give us the money to make the world a better place. I'm not going to turn it down.
But Nestle's been doing some really horrible shit when it comes to water, though. Like their CEO thinks that water should not be considered a human right.
Okay, so if we use that money to make water a human right, then we undo the damage of one loudmouth git, right?
I mean,
reach moral net zero by 2050.
All right, you know what? Let's discuss that off camera. But for now, in terms of what we can do to speed up the world's transition, we can export renewable energy and electric vehicle systems. It'll make us a ton of money, make us incredibly rich, provide a ton of jobs, and at the same time, it will, with certain countries, if we export to certain countries on each of the other continents, then they can sell renewable energy, not just to their citizens, but they can then expand as more stabilized countries. There's a lot of the reason for destabilization of other countries is in part a lack of reliable energy production. And so, they have the US. Well, there's the US as well, but there's
the US destabilizes other countries.
I just got what you meant then, and yes, that is true. But pretend that doesn't exist, or apply it to countries that are not completely screwed over by the US's, let's say, unsavory proclivity. Actions. As if people know what that word is. I don't even know what that word is, even though I've heard it several times before. But to get back to the questions and the answers, we can very well stabilize other countries and then have them sell renewable energy to the rest of their region. So it only takes us selling renewable energy to a few other countries, that is renewable energy systems, to a few other countries, in order to stabilize those countries and begin to reach out like a wave effect, stabilizing other countries around them and transitioning them to renewable, to 100% renewable energy systems for their electricity needs, for their transport needs, for their logistical needs. And so, if we, in effect, plant seeds, we can watch those seeds grow out from one country here, another country there, and that can start to stabilize the rest of the world.
This is really starting to sound like one of those feel-good insurance adverts, from little things, big things grow.
Well, I mean, look, in a way, it kind of is. If we, this is in a sense almost an ad for, developing renewable energy and manufacturing in Australia. As if we do so and we start to sell that on a large scale to the rest of the world, starting with just a few other countries, at least one or two on each continent, we can rapidly speed up the transition to a net zero future.
It's
And
okay.
that
I hear after Russia gets dealt with in this war, the Russian woodpecker will finally go offline. So, that'll open up a bunch of radio transmission space in Ukraine, so we can sell them some energy boxes to power their radio transmitters. Because they'll have to replace that station. For all the nostalgia nuts over in the Western world who are wondering why there's no longer this buzzing on the shortwave.
So I had no idea what you're talking about then, but I trust that it was something that is interesting enough for you to send me a link afterwards and me to come to understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I'll tell a
that,
quick story from my past just for this.
Sure,
And I will make it quick.
very quick.
Back when I were a wee lad, when I was younger, I used to have horrible sleep schedule. Didn't we all? I was doing my HSC, and I got bored and I'd get stuck on Wikipedia. I was very interested in radio transmission technology. I still am. But a thing that kept coming up was numbers stations. And they're sort of used, command and control when you have operations happening that are not for the general public to know about, shall we say. And whenever I was reading about the history of these stations and what they were doing, and things like the Cuban spy trials that happened in the US, which in part admitted evidence from these stations, I always had this vague sense of paranoia that, if I were to just turn my head, I'd find someone with a gun pointed at it. Thankfully, I got psychiatric treatment, so now I can read about number stations without having panic attacks. I recommend it.
Wait, was that the whole story?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Not what I was expecting.
Don't read about espionage when you're already paranoid. It's a bad time.
Well, give me another 6 months before I read about that then.
Sure
I'm
thing.
still working out my issues. So yes, I guess is there really much more to talk about? So I mean, we've really answered the question. Australia can speed up the world's transition to net zero by expanding
leading by
grasslands
example.
massively,
Yeah.
leading by example, and by
exporting tech.
exporting tech and renewable energy and electric vehicle products, while at the same time restarting and reinvigorating our manufacturing base to such a degree that it makes us like that it can
The
provides
capybara
us
of the world.
well, I was going to say an incredibly wealthy country, but we already are quite wealthy. So I was about to change that to a much more rich country. Probably one of, if well, we already are one of the wealthiest countries in the world. But imagine if we were a lot wealthier than this. Imagine if we literally were the richest country in the world. Sounds amazing. And also the capybara of the world. And with that, I think we'll end it. Interestingly, about 4 minutes under time.
Nice.
So we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching, and share this with people if they want some hope for the future.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. We hope that the idea of being the world's capybara sparks a fire in you.